I take a lot of pride in my music taste. Not that my taste in music is super unique in the grand scope of things, but it's always been different compared to the music taste of my peers. Like in high school, while my friends were listening to Bruno Mars and Tayo Cruz, I was sitting in the corner listening to Crystal Castles and Neon Indian. And for the longest time, I thought I was alone in my music preferences, but with the internet and its subsequent culture, I have learned that I'm not the only eclectic music lover in the world. Far from it. The amount of genres on the internet is simply staggering. Honestly, to dive into all of them would make this video like 4,576 hours long, but I am proud to say that I am a self-proclaimed internet music delver and lover. From the vaporwave craze, hardcore breaks, and drone and ambient, I absolutely love making new discoveries in the world of music on the internet. And the latest and greatest discovery I have made is Dungeon Synth. I had no idea this was a thing. It's honestly a miracle that I found it, and I think it's amazing, and I am genuinely so happy that I found it. Basically, in the simplest terms that I can use, Dungeon Synth sounds like you're living in a fantasy RPG, or you're living in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. So, with that said, welcome to the tavern. Gather around the hearth, rest your weary feet, and listen to me try to say something coherent about this obscure genre of music. Probably not. Don't unsubscribe. It may not come as a surprise to some of my viewers, but I absolutely adore fantasy worlds and themes. Lord of the Rings may be my favorite work of fiction, like, ever. Those movies have shaped me into who I am today. And I also grew up watching my buddies play Diablo 2. My mom wouldn't let me get the game because, you know, the devil. And I spent probably in-game years of my youth roaming the countryside of Cyrodiil as I played The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. And in recent years, I have completely fallen in love with the harsh and cruel worlds of Dark Souls. And while I may not be as well versed as some of my contemporaries in the art of sorcery, goblin hunting, and the nitty-titty-gritties of fantasy, I am at least a little bit confident when I say that I do love me some fantasy. And that sentiment and love for fantasy has only been enhanced by Dungeon Synth. So with my very limited knowledge about music theory, I would describe Dungeon Synth as the music you would hear if you were a fantasy RPG protagonist, or a brooding knight in an epic tale, or even a wizard reading through old scrolls in an old decrepit tower. And as far as the aesthetic goes, you have influences from black metal, which is a completely dark and scary hole I don't really feel like going down right now. But in contrast, you also have warmer, Renaissance-esque imagery that conjures up a more positive vibe. Dungeon Synth, well, it's a lot of things. Even within the confines of this very niche genre, I have felt many contrasting feelings and have experienced different sounds as I have delved into the dungeon that is Dungeon Synth. Like, for example, take Fief. Fief? Fief? This stuff is my freaking jam. Fief's music takes me back to the very classic, fairy tale-esque visuals and aesthetic of Oblivion. You know, rolling green hills only sparsed by quaint taverns and inns, gathering herbs, concocting potions, going to Bilbo's chick's birthday party, like freaking Castletown in Ocarina of Time. But, in stark contrast, you also have the dank atmospheres presented by another artist, Sunken Grove. Sunken Grove's music brings me a much more mysterious and almost magical feeling. Like, this is the stuff I imagine playing in the background of a wise old sage's walk through the swamp. You know what? let me just share with you what Sunken Grove said in regard to his own music. The Sunken Grove relates to a place within nature, a key point obscured from human interaction. This grove is a place that connects the landscape, nature, and the supernatural. At these thresholds, a sense of melancholy may prevail, but they also offer a space for introspection. Well, gosh dang, I couldn't have said it better myself, like, not even close. And finally, I want to talk about another artist that goes by Secret Stairways. Secret Stairways' album, Enchantment of the Ring, conjures up an adventurous, conquerous, and epic atmosphere. For me, I can't help but think of classic fantasy art while listening to him, like the art of Frank Frazetta. Like, just look at this. Like, this is what I imagine my Dark Souls character would listen to in order to encourage himself before going into, you know, this crazy boss fight. This, to me, is adventure music. Like, just peep this footage of me walking my dog to this music, and you'll see the same thing. You'll know what I'm talking about. And I just want to take a moment to talk about the artist behind Secret Stairways. This man, Matthew Davis, was making Dungeon Synth in the 90s, off the cusp of the emergence of black metal, in which Dungeon Synth derived. As far as I know, he could be a pioneer of this genre. But, unfortunately, Matthew Davis passed away in 2011. And while his music is free on Bandcamp, any proceeds go to his surviving family members. This really is so powerful to me. Knowing that there are artists similar to Matthew Davis out there who are making awesome, mysterious, and captivating fantasy music just touches me, and it honestly makes me kind of emotional. Here are creative people sharing their creative outlet to the world with little to no fanfare. Being a musician is not easy. Like, I have no experience myself, obviously, but I have close friends who work so hard to bring their creations to light and get almost zero recognition for their efforts. And Dungeon Synth just epitomizes this for me. Here you have people who know and love their craft, and they're brave enough to put their music out to the world on Bandcamp. And they just simply have a passion for this work, and they love it enough to share it with others, even though they probably know that they're not going to make a nickel or a dime off of it. And I respect this to no end, and really, in conclusion, all I can say is thank you. Thank you for making my walks with my dog that much more magical. Thank you for making my work days that much less of a slog. Thank you for bringing me back to the glory days of playing Oblivion and Zelda for hours on end with no consequence. Thank you for reminding me that life can be a little bit more fantastical. Dungeon Synth has reminded me that I can keep doing what I'm doing simply because I love it and have a passion for it. So really, thank you, Dungeon Synth, for helping me realize this in my life.